The entity that saved me. My house has never had anything too weird happen. Aside from the night my cousin passed away, and the front door turned and opened. It was a windy night, but we knew for sure that the door was closed. It was a cold winter day, so naturally, all the doors and windows were closed. My dad was very close with my cousin, so he figured he'd stop by to let us know that he was with us and everything was okay. Aside from that, the only other phenomenon occurs in my garage. The garage has an attic, which I renovated into a stoner's lounge. Typically, we only use it at nighttime, and I rarely go up there alone. We rarely hear things when I'm with a group. But if just me or a friend, and we hear all sorts of sounds. I live near a major road. A lot of bangs we hear we assume to be trucks hitting the grade that starts outside of my neighborhood. Although we can distinguish the truck sounds, there are plenty of unexplained sounds. One night the barbell made a sound as if someone was lifting. We came back to find it on the weight bench instead of on the rack. The strange sounds never bothered me. I didn't feel as if the presence was negative. I did feel a presence at times, though. One night I ventured to the attic alone, smoked a little bit to help me get to bed, and quickly left. As I'm climbing down the ladder, I felt a really tight cold grip around my left wrist. It was holding on for a few seconds, and I noticed the hand wasn't on the ladder. My other hand was leaning for the light switch. For a moment, the cold grip led me back to the ladder. I held on tight and made my way out of the garage, mesmerized. I don't know what happened. I could have fell if it didn't grab me. I could have just been a paranoid stoner at the moment, but I certainly won't forget the cold grip. I'm still comfortable in the garage and attic, but the sounds still continue. It freaks me out a bit when I hear something, but I still feel no negativity. Anyone else experience something similar? Watching us. Hi, first time I'm here, and I thought I'd share one story that happened to us around 12 years ago. In the winter of 2005, we moved from town to a nice house out in the woods. It was in January, and we were out of power since a major storm had hit the country, leaving tens of thousands of households without electricity. So we were out for around a week. Since there were not electricity, things got really dark after dusk, and we relied on candles to get around, which was pretty cozy. This also helped me to rid most of my fears of the dark, since I didn't even dare walk into the dark room by myself back then. I was 11 years old then. So this one night in the beginning of 2005, a cold night with fresh snow on the ground, we all went to sleep as usual. In the middle of the night, my dad wakes up by someone shining a bright light in his face. He wakes up and sees what looks like a light from a flashlight shining through the window with a bright bluish color. The flashlight then pans down the bed like it wants to inspect the bed and room before turning around and up and vanishing. So my dad went up, thinking it was my mom with a flashlight who tried to start the generator or something like that. So he looked out through the window, no one there. So he opens the door and walks out to see if someone was walking around. Nothing. No footprints anywhere near the windows of the room as far as he could see with his flashlight. So he went back to bed a bit confused. Next morning, he told us about it, and we thought it was really cool, but we could never figure out what it was. What I thought was interesting was that the incident never gave any fear or feeling of unease as other stories I've heard of things happening in windows, but instead, it gave us something almost like a calm and amazement feeling. Has any one of you experienced something similar? Deep set eyes. I posted this to Reddit Nosleep too. The following account is true. My husband and I moved into an apartment together almost 2 years ago now. It's in a quiet town about 30 miles from where we work. My husband worked 5 days per week, and I worked 4, meaning some mornings I get to sleep in. It was on mornings like this that I had a couple of disquieting experiences. The first time, my husband Jordan had been gone for a couple hours. It was still very early morning, and I heard the sound of an apartment door opening and closing. It sounded like ours. I was very groggy and not entirely awake, but I felt something enter the bedroom. Turning my head, I thought I saw the dim silhouette of a tall male figure standing at the foot of the bed. He was taking off his shirt. I don't have to explain why that was unsettling to me. Not being completely awake, I had great difficulty moving my limbs and had to focus very hard before I was able to lift my head and focus my eyes at the foot of the bed. No one was there. I chalked it up to an episode of sleep paralysis and decided to just get up. There was no way I'd fall back to sleep after that. As the weeks went by, I forgot about the ordeal until one morning I had a similar experience. Again, Jordan had left for work an hour or two before. I was half asleep when I felt the blankets on either side of me give way slightly, and felt the mattress sink underneath the weight of something climbing up onto the bed. My heart began to race. I gathered my faculties, and as quickly as I possibly could, and lunged forward into a sitting position, striking out with my fist and forearm. Again, nothing was there. I remember my first experience, remarking how this had seemed to escalate from the time before. Now that my adrenaline was pumping full speed, I once again got up, still feeling slightly rattled. Weeks or months passed. It was winter now. Actually, just this past winter. Something caused me to wake at about 3 or 4 a.m. one Saturday morning. In the pitch blackness, my blurry eyes perceived a figure slowly passing in front of the dresser, barely illuminated by the light of the alarm clock display. For a moment, I saw 2 dark, deep-set eyes. Then it passed through the dim light of the clock and into the darkness at the foot of the bed. For a moment, I hoped it was just my husband, returned from a middle-of-the-night visit to the bathroom. But why? Did he just stand there at the foot of the bed, shrouded in blackness? Slowly, very slowly, I reached out my foot onto Jordan's side of the bed. My toe brushed against the form of my sleeping husband. Something else was in the room with us, staring at us from the darkness. At this point, my heart was hammering against my ribs like never before. I'd always thought people were silly for fearing that their heartbeat could be heard from afar in a moment of crisis. But now I understood that fear. I was also trembling violently, trying with all my might not to let it know that I was awake. I had no weapon, no way of waking Jordan without alerting it that I knew it was there. The only thing within my reach was the bedside lamp. Our room had no lights fixtures, hence we have 2 lamps, one on the dresser, one next to the bed. This one I grabbed and flung with all my might in the direction I had last seen the figure. There was a crash as it connected with the dresser across the room. I sat up, grabbed for a flashlight, fumbled, dropped it, sprang out of bed, crossed the room, and flicked on the other lamp. There was nothing there. Jordan was awakened by the sound of the crash. He saw me standing in the middle of the floor, wide-eyed and shaking, and sat me down on the edge of the bed to calm me down. There was someone there. I almost sobbed. I saw its face. Jordan made sure I was all right, then made a sweep of the apartment while I waited in the bedroom, too shook up to do much else. The front door was locked. The sliding door wall was closed and barred. The windows were closed and locked. There was no way in from the outside. No one could have gone in without us knowing. It took a couple episodes of Fraser to calm us both down. My antics had really freaked Jordan out too, especially once I told him what I'm telling you now. The rest of the night passed without incident, and there haven't been any since. I can't explain what it was that I saw. Was it my imagination? An eyes wide open dream? Something paranormal? I suppose I'll never know. But I still wonder if one day I'll wake up to face those deep-set eyes staring down at me. Closer this time. Vanishing car on a country road. This is a personal experience from years ago. Hello all, this is my first post to paranormal. So if anything is wrong with the posting, please let me know. I was encouraged to write about my experiences after mentioning it on another post. It was about phantom cars. This happened many years ago when I was a teenager. Over 30 years ago. I understand that. That is a long time ago and memories fade, etc. I was with my father and he recalls this event, and I know for a fact that I might have forgotten minor details, but I will not embellish. Background to the experience. It was Thanksgiving, and my mom had everyone over for dinner, both sides of the family. My one grandma didn't drive, so she came with my aunt and uncle. After dinner, everyone left. My grandma wanted to stay longer to chit-chat, so Dad offers to take Grandma home. It was only 15 miles away, so it wasn't a big deal. We chit-chat, etc. when Dad notices that it is snowing really hard. We lived in the snow belt in Ohio, with lots of lake-effect snow. When it starts to snow bad, you know it's time to get your butt moving and then get off the roads. We bundle up Grandma, and my mom suggested that I go with my dad, so I could help him get Grandma into the house, help him stay awake while driving, and I'm sure to get me out of the house so she could have some quiet time after such a long day. We head out and it's snowing hard, not a slushy snow, but heavy big flakes. Grandma didn't live that far away, but we're talking country roads here, and the snow was piling up and the roads were a little dicey. There was and is one area on the way to Grandma's where the main state route gets down a very steep grade and then quickly up an equally steep grade. The car barely made it up. We get Grandma home. As the weather is quickly getting worse, Dad said we need to get back on the road. Dad was truly worried about getting back up and down that steep grade and decided to take the back roads. They might not be plowed, but there isn't any hills or grades. We head out to town. Now, these back roads are back roads, very country, hardly paved, lots and lots of Amish houses. No street lights and no stoplights. It is dark. These roads are fairly straight, and there is only one intersection with stop signs. No turnoffs and side roads. There are plenty of trees, big maples and other trees, as well as a lot of brush. Very thick. One side of the road is woods, the other side is a high wall of dirt and rock. We are driving and Dad is concentrating intensely on the road. Me too. It is pitch black, and the only light is from our headlights. We are the only folks out on the road, as there are no tire tracks in the snow. We are both quiet and concentrating, when from behind, we are almost blinded by headlights that just appeared. They were far back, and we had been on the road for some time, and it was odd how they just appeared. We keep driving, and this car is quickly gaining on us. They are driving fast. My dad is maybe going 20 to 25 miles per hour, and now and then pushing it to 30. The car is going way faster than that. Before we know it, the car is right on our tail. They have the brightest headlights, and I remember putting my hand over the passenger side mirror to block the light. After this went on for a very short period, the car makes a swerve to go around us. I look out the back seat windows and notice that the car was a big vintage muscle car, maybe a Chevy Nova, Chevelle, not sure what type it was, but it was certainly a vintage muscle car. As it starts to overtake us, I glance over and see that there are 3 people inside the car. It almost seems like the car is lit from the inside. It's not glowing, but you can see right in. Maybe the dome light was on. In the back seat center was a guy with shaggy hair, wearing what looks like a buckskin jacket. The driver was also a shaggy-haired young man. He was leaning close to the steering wheel, arms almost wrapped around it. In the passenger seat was a young woman. She was wearing a big, floppy hat, and she was laughing. I could tell she was laughing, because she seemed to be rocking in her seat and leaning forwards towards the dashboard. As they are right by my dad's side of the car, the guy in the back seat looks over at us. He really doesn't seem to notice us or care, just a blank expression. It seems a little odd at the time because you usually can't see into a car like that at night. So I do believe that the dome light was on. As they get around us, my dad says, "What an asshole. He's gonna get killed driving like that." They pull in front of us and slow down a little, as I'm sure they notice there were no tracks in the snow to follow. They tap their brakes once and then take off. Dad is actually pretty thrilled because now we have some tire tracks to follow as he speeds up. But the other car pulls ahead. We can still see the taillights and are following. We see them stop at one intersection and go straight. We do the same and keep following the taillights and tire tracks. The other car drives over a little rise and we follow. We're only a few feet behind, 50 to 75 feet. We drive over the rise and nothing. 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 No car, no tire tracks, no lights. Nothing. Just an empty, snowy country road. My dad slows down a bit and says, "What the hell? Where did the car go?" We see nothing. The car could not have crashed, because now, with Dad driving slow again, we can see that the woods is not disturbed. Besides that, there are no tire tracks going towards the woods. There are no turnoffs and no side roads. We have been down these back roads many, many times, and we know for a fact that there are no turnoffs and side roads in the area. Also, there are no houses, so no driveways to drive into. We keep looking left and right and nothing. The tire tracks just vanished over that rise, and the car did too. We didn't talk the rest of the way home. I'm sure we were both thinking the same thing. What the hell? When we make it home, we tell my mom. She is stunned too, and when she sees how shaken my dad is, she believes us. Years later, I learned that my father went back the next day to check the roads in the woods. There were no signs of any accidents, and no signs of the car being local of the houses. My dad was really shook up, and even looked in the newspapers to see if any accidents had occurred over Thanksgiving. He finally broke down and called the local fire and rescue to report a possible accident. He's not sure they actually checked, but they did call him back to say they found nothing. So what happened? How or why did a big muscle car with 3 young people in it vanish on a snowy country road? And if the car was real, where did it go? If it was a phantom car, why? Why then and why there? To this day, I'm still freaked out. We've traveled that road many times, and nothing odd ever happened again. Whenever I return to Ohio, I always make sure to go down that road, as it's actually gorgeous with the trees. Nothing strange has ever happened, but that memory is always there. Mountain spirits? I live and work in a ski town in the northern Rockies. A beautiful and powerful set of mountains with so much energy. Anyway, one powder day, I went to a very out-of-the-way bowl in the afternoon that still had untracked snow. I am the only one there, and as I'm getting towards the bottom, I felt like I was being watched, and I thought I saw someone in the corner of my eye above me. So I looked and no one. Happened a couple more times, different people and descriptions. This other time I was at a bar at the base of the resort, and I'm playfully leaning back on a bar stool. I literally felt a hand push me back into place. I look behind me and no one near me, nothing. I would like to note that I never felt any scary or negative energy from these experiences, just a sense of curiosity. Opinions? Knowledge? Northern Lights. Hello there, my name is Drew. I come from a small town in northern Canada. There was an episode in my childhood that I'd like to share with everyone. It's a fond memory that still has me in awe to this day, and it's happened that that happened so randomly as well. This event occurred when I was about 8 years old. It was a winter evening around December. I remember it was a warm winter night. The sky was clear. You could see the stars very brightly, and the snow was melted into ice, so it was slippery. I was in my house. My mother was making dinner, and I was watching Dragon Ball Z. My mom starts calling my name, Drew, Drew, Drew. I was like, not now, damn it, I'm watching DBZ. But like anyone, I went over to see what was up. She said, look, son, the northern lights are out. Aren't they beautiful? I said, yeah, they are. Always are, Mom. She abruptly said, you should go look at them. They're right outside our door. We lived in the mountains and in the middle of the boreal forest. She said, quick, go, son. Go see them and talk to them and say... Now I can't quite remember what she told me to say to the auroras, but it was something close to sky. So, I threw on my snow boots and my jacket and flew out the door. I walked about 400 meters away from my house, scared of coyotes. As I looked into the sky, I noticed the auroras were right above me. They were so low, I was in awe, and they put me in a euphoric trance. Tingles up my spine, and endorphins, kind of like when you come back from a 2-hour jog. Staring up into the heavens, I spoke and said what my mom had told me to. I said this phrase, and to my amazement, the lights started dancing. In the midst of the dancing, they seemed like they were so close, like I could touch them. I started hearing a shimmering sound in my ears. It was the most beautiful thing I'd seen and heard in my life. These northern lights were different, somehow. Then I began to see a light shooting towards me from the auroras. This light shot down to me and right past my body. I felt the presence of something or someone around me, like I wasn't alone. The light exploded with brightness and brilliance, then shot back into the sky. After that, the auroras receded higher into the sky, and it was all over. During this whole experience, I wasn't frightened at all. Whatever it was, I know it was good and pure and left me feeling at home. I believe my brain was in shock at what I'd seen. I ran back inside and immediately asked my mom what she told me to say to Northern Lights. Her reply, I never told you to say anything, son. Has anyone else had weird experiences with the Northern Lights?